off is because Mark is also the national organizer for the National Labor Party. And also, Adolph and Mark Demonstein also, we were on the National Interim Committee for the Labor Party. And how many of you, I just want to know a little history here, because there are a lot of the old folks too. How many of you remember Tony Mazzocchi coming to our conventions? Raise your hand. Great. The founder of the New Labor Party, Tony Mazzocchi, was such a great leader, and he fell in love with South Carolina. First time Tony came, we were doing an action at the newspaper in Myrtle Beach. I said, Tony, you just got to get in the back of the car and go with us and talk to this reporter till we get back. And so he just loved it, you know. We were doing an action at the City Hall with the firefighters over there. So we're up here today to say, yes, the labor movement has a statement. We're the only state in the United States that has a Labor Party line, and these guys spent a lot of time, effort, going around the country raising money, spent a lot of money to get that line here because we had to have
16,000.
We had to have 10, but we actually got 16,500.
Yay!
Yeah, signatures.
Yay!
You wouldn't believe. I always said that, you know, Adolph is a wonderful writer, a professor, but he made the best carnival barker you ever saw in your life. Give him a cane and a flea market, he'd snatch them over and we'd get their signature. So I want them to say a few things, and then we're going to bring up our candidate and let him speak for a few minutes and let you know that, you know, the Labor Party is the new kid in town, and we're going to really do a lot of work to build a movement we did before. And Tony always believed the time for politics would be there. And we are the springboard for it. So Mark and Adolph, if y'all say a few words, and then we'll bring up our candidate.
Well, you all heard from me this morning, so I'm not going to say too much right now. I believe in this project, but I have to say that it was Donna and Adolph and a sister who couldn't be here today, Catherine Isaac, who convinced me that South Carolina might be a place to start this ball rolling and to prove to people that in the heart of the Right to Work South that people would respond to a message that was beyond the two-party, lesser of two evils system, and that could really build an independent party of the working class. And that's what folks did here in the state through a lot of hard one-on-one conversation with working people, union and non-union, in the state of South Carolina. And with that, I'm going to ask Brother Reed to introduce our candidate. Just tell you a little, he's one of the people who spent months in flea markets and door-to-door campaigns all around the state and helped get those 16,542 signatures from every single county in the state of South Carolina. And you know that ballot line is being carried forward now by Brother Harold. And Adolph, I'm going to ask you to introduce him.
Thanks, Mark, Donna, Aaron, Charles. It's good to be back in the state and seeing, you know, old friends and new friends. Good to be back at the state Fed convention. I'm not going to say much, but I will. But before I introduce Harold, I want to stress one thing. Yes, it's true. We got 16,542 registered South Carolina voters signed a petition willingly. We didn't coerce anybody. I would have if I could, but we couldn't. Saying that they thought that the state of South Carolina should recognize a Labor Party in South Carolina. And you know, that's not really that much of a surprise to those of us in this room, right? But it was a surprise to a lot of people around the country, right? Because of the reputation South Carolina has. Also, and this is the last thing I'll say, I didn't come down here to talk, I came down here to watch and commune and see friends. But the other thing I'd stress is that we did this, right? I mean, this effort in the state began really in December of 2005. And we realized what we had to do, and we started the petition campaign in January of 2006. And we did work for over a year. But the reason that those dates are important is that, you know, this was just a few years after the Confederate flag controversy, right? It was at the same time that, you know, that the Republican Party had decided that a way to create a wedge issue for 2006 was to push for a constitutional amendment that would write the statutory prohibition of same-sex marriage into the South Carolina State Constitution. In all those flea markets where we worked, and I can run down the litany now, Barnyard, UUS1, Jockey Lot, Florence, Latson, I'm probably missing somebody. Nobody ever asked us where we stood on the Confederate flag, black, white, old, young, male, female. Nobody asked us where we stood on same-sex marriage. Nobody asked us where we stood on undocumented workers. Nobody asked us where we stood on evolution, right? But what everybody said was, it's about time that there's some political voice in South Carolina talking about the things that working people in South Carolina are actually concerned about. Good quality jobs with some security, housing, healthcare, and education. Now, again, that's not a surprise to anybody in this room either, because you all are South Carolinians and you know your friends and families and co-workers. But it's also like a point to stress that we can have a different basis for politics in this state as well as we can in the country. And I think that our candidate, Harold Geddings, is the first baby step of the first baby step of the first baby step on the way to building that politics, and I'm as excited as everyone else is. So no further ado, Brother Geddings.
Thank you very much. Well, let me start off by saying having a little bit of an issue today. Of course, right before the biggest speech of my political career, I'm going to come down with a sinus infection the night before. So if I seem loopy or loopier than usual, I should say, I'm sorry, it's the cold medicine, it's not me. So with that said, brothers and sisters, good afternoon. I'm Harold Geddings, proud union sheet metal worker and candidate for United States Congress. For those of you who don't know, I'm running in the South Carolina 2nd against old Joe Uli Wilson.
Oh, we gotta know.
And a so-called Democrat named Phil Black, who's run for this seat 3 times before as a Republican, and he hasn't changed his views on anything. He's on record as saying that Joe Wilson is too liberal. So I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. Now, I've got to make another confession at this point. It wasn't exactly my intention to run for anything this year. I had a pretty good job going, an interesting social life, a growing bank account that was going to finance a nice little Caribbean getaway this fall. But sure enough, 3 days before the end of filing, Donna DeWitt calls me up and asked if I'd be willing to run for Congress on the Labor Party line. Well, now I'm temporarily laid off, nearly broke, and I have a social calendar that's completely eaten up with campaign events. So, so the question is, why would I bother to do this? Well, folks, I'm here because I couldn't in good conscience say no. The folks of my generation and the ones that followed, we're angry, and rightfully so. We're the ones that are being expected to clean up the mess caused by decades of Republican mismanagement. You know, we've done what was expected of us. We went to college with the expectation of a better life that no longer exists. We graduated, some of us, 5 to 6 figures in debt, into a world where the middle class jobs, the good living wage paying jobs, no longer exist. We're now in a world where we are all one medical catastrophe away from complete financial ruin. Excuse me. And we're now in a world where the top 1% absorbs as much as 93% of all the new income growth. So the question before us is, what do we do about this? The ruling class and its lapdogs in the media would have us believe that these problems are complicated and all but unsolvable. Well, I stand before you today as a candidate who is not a wholly owned subsidiary of corporate America to tell you that while the road ahead of us may be long, the solutions themselves should be as clear as the mustache on my face. Let's look at the obvious problem here. Ever since the passage of NAFTA and all the so-called free trade agreements that followed, Our manufacturing sector has all but vanished.
Yes.
Meanwhile, unions, which were once the guardians of the middle class, entered a state of rapid decline.
All right.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 2013, the union membership rate, that's the percentage of salaried and hourly workers that belong to unions, is down to a paltry 11.3%. And we're told that we have to keep accepting more and more wage and benefit cuts, or else our jobs will be the next to be shipped overseas. We're caught in a global race to the bottom, while corporate America laughs all the way to the bank. And what is Washington doing about it? Fiddling while Rome burns, of course. And why wouldn't they? The ones benefiting from this broken system are the same ones financing their campaigns. Rather than fixing this broken system, Washington makes it worse with new agreements like CAFTA and the TPP. Now, we could either renegotiate or rescind these trade agreements entirely. We could protect and strengthen workers' rights to organize and fight back against this wholesale theft. We could fix our insane tax system that actually gives tax breaks to the companies shipping our jobs overseas. We could outlaw ridiculous schemes like corporate inversion, which allow corporations to pretend to move overseas and thus get out of paying their fair share of taxes. We could, but until we get organized, fight back, and vote out the scoundrels that keep allowing this to happen, we won't. So how do we get there? In a word, education. An educated workforce is one that's not going to keep rolling over and taking this. But where's the incentive to get educated anymore? In short, what's the point in going to college only to graduate with a debt that will take decades to pay off?
Amen.
When the only jobs available don't even pay a living wage. This, my friends, is a problem that requires a multi-pronged solution. Let's bring back the jobs and make it easier to go to school. First, we fix our trade and tax policies, which I've already addressed. Second, we need to massively invest in our infrastructure. I know this isn't the sexiest issue in the world, but let's face it. Our roads, our bridges, our schools, our electrical grids, our water system, and even our ports could all use a massive 21st century overhaul. Addressing these needs now will not only put millions back to work and put billions back into our economy, but are a tangible investment in our future prosperity. And finally, we have to once and for all address the issue of educational affordability. Now, I've heard proposals to lower the interest rates or to cap tuition. Well, these are just piecemeal solutions that don't address the real problem. What I think we should do is adopt the Norwegian system that guarantees a higher education to anyone who's willing to pursue it, regardless of their ability to pay. And I don't just mean traditional liberal arts schools either. Trade and vocational schools have to be a part of this equation as well. Because let's face it, we need new mechanics and new construction workers just as much as we need teachers and scientists. And while I'm on the subject of absurd for-profit systems, let's talk for a minute about health care. Sure, the Affordable Care Act was a step in the right direction. It's helped cover millions who had previously not had any kind of coverage. But it's still a flawed solution. One needs to look only no further than South Carolina to see why. It's allowed a partisan hack like Nikki Haley to refuse federal money to expand Medicaid and thus deny coverage to so many. According to an article in the Greenville News recently, and I quote, in South Carolina, nearly 200,000 individuals fall into what is called the coverage gap. By not expanding Medicaid, this group of people will not have any health insurance. And let's face it, we're the last industrialized democracy that's in the world still clinging to a for-profit healthcare model. And as long as there's a profit motive to deny care, people will die due to a lack of coverage. Now is the time to quit coddling the insurance industry and adopt H.R. 676, the Medicare for All Act that's been kicking around Congress for years. It's simple, it's honest, and that's a big change for Washington, and it's what our people deserve. Now, I know what some of you are saying, but Harold, this is great and all, but how are we going to pay for all this? My friends, don't buy into all the hype. If we can come up with $1 trillion to fund a fighter jet program that the military doesn't even want and that can be defeated by rain, we can find the money to invest in our own people. Our country is not broke, it's being robbed, and it's time we started investing in people's needs and not corporate greed. And finally, let's address the elephant in the room. Why run third party? I've actually had people tell me they wish I'd run as a Democrat so they could support me.
Where were they?
Good question. My friends, that's not how democracy works. There's nothing in the Constitution that says only Democrats or Republicans can hold office in this country. I'm on the ballot just the same as Joe Wilson and Phil Black. If more people vote for me than vote for them, I win. Simple. But it's more than that. My decision to run as a Labor Party candidate boils down to a single word: freedom. I have no major corporate donors to call, meaning I'm free to talk about the issues the major parties are afraid to address. And though the Democratic and Republican parties don't like to admit it, every major social reform of the last 150 years, from the abolition of slavery to the 8-hour workday, well, it was originally started out as a third-party idea. Another third-party candidate once said that his greatest accomplishment as a candidate was the theft of his platform by the Democratic Party. And just by being on the ballot, I'm forcing the major party candidates to address issues they'd rather not talk about. So thank you for giving me time to address this convention. I'm running an entirely people-driven campaign, and you are the people upon whom I'm relying. I look forward to talking to you, and with your permission, your membership in coming weeks. I welcome your questions and want to hear your concerns. And if I can assist you with your get-out-the-vote efforts, please don't hesitate to ask. Majeska Simpkins once said that you don't do this work because you think you're going to win. You do it because you think it's right.
That's right.
But my friends, we are right, and history has taught us that when we unite, we win. The fist will crush what the fingers cannot. Now let's get back to work. Thank you.
Harold, and I hope that all of you, from $5 to whatever you can afford, will chip in to help Harold with this campaign. And I want to thank Adolph and Mark also.
Well, I just want to say that Brother Dimmonstein, before he left, personally pledged $500 to Harold's campaign, and he said he hoped that the delegates here could match him in that effort. So Harold will be here for a little while. Collectively, yeah. Although there's somebody in this room who might have $500.
Hey, Harold.
Yes, sir.
We got a few minutes
Okay.
running, and if anybody got any questions, you can answer the question.
Sure.
Except a few questions. I think it's a very historical moment. So if anybody got any
We
questions,
can pass.
Yes, sir.
We're done.
Does that district run anywhere close to
state your name and what local you're from.
James Morrison with IAMAW out of Beaufort, South Carolina, Parris Island? And does the district go anywhere close to Beaufort?
Unfortunately, they redrew the district in 2010. You remember Beaufort County, Hampton, and Jasper, I think, and Allendale were all part of the second district.
Yeah, but
And they because of what Rob Miller was able to pull off in 2010. We can't have that anymore.
That's
So
right.
they redrew it. So now the district is it's all of Barnwell County, all of Aiken, all of Lexington. It's and then there's like about a third of Orangeburg County and this weird little gerrymandered piece of Richmond. So.
And Harold, may I say something? In everybody's package, there is a colored copy of the new district. So okay? And please make sure you bring that back, hang it up on the bulletin boards, let everybody know the districts have changed, okay?
Question,
Yes, sir.
George Poirier, town of Lakewood.
Mm-hmm.
I understand you're running for late.
Yes, sir.
Somebody got the Democratic nomination.
Mm-hmm.
Your candidacy, in my opinion, might just divide the vote for the Republican.
Well, I understand your concern, but like I was saying, the Democrat in this race is one that's on record as saying Joe Wilson is too liberal. He's actually attacking Joe Wilson from the right flank, so I'm the only progressive in this race. I mean, I completely understand your concern, but, you know, I mean, with the demographics of this race being what it is, I have no choice but to run, and somebody has to do it.
As
Do you still have time?
Yeah.
Liz and those asked you to pass the hat. I don't know.
Oh, she got a box.
But they have to, y'all have to be careful on this kind of stuff, don't you? You got to
You can ask
pass,
a couple more
you
questions.
have to pass a pin and,
I would suggest that if the money was then allocated to the South Carolina PAC and then reallocated,
Okay.
redonated as a
just
dedicated
this
contribution,
particular
that you
contribution.
would probably, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that would be a
No, you're
performance
right.
of the campaign.
As chairman of the PAC committee, you'll definitely pass a hat for this particular issue.
I
got one going back there.
You got a box.
Okay, they can start passing, we can start passing the hat.
You got a box.
Got another question?
Dave Genie, Sheet Metal Workers, Local 399, Charleston, South Carolina. You gonna be at the meeting tomorrow night?
I'm sure going to try to be. I mean, as soon as I
With
close,
your
I can.
busy schedule, I didn't know if you'd be at the meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm dealing with this whole sinus thing right now, but I'm planning on being back in Charleston tomorrow anyway, so yeah, I should be able to.
Well, I'm gonna encourage the local to match a little better than
Oh,
that.
excellent, thank you.
I'll make the call tonight.
This is not, this is
Any
not
other
the-
question?
Let me just say on your map, this is not the new map. I'm sorry. We'll have to get you the new map.
Yeah.
Nate just pointed out to me, this was before. So this one does not.
Show 7.
No, it does not have 7 on it. If you look on that, you know, the one came up right below Conway.
No, this one's in my packet, that's got 7 on it.
Oh, it does?
So it must be a mix-up.
Some of you may, if you've got a wrong one, just let us know and we'll get you.
Which one is right?
You should have 7 congressional districts on your
You
map.
should have 7 congressional districts. If you don't have it, please, ma'am, please, sir, just stop by the office.
Northeast corner should be yellow if it's right.
Yeah, it'd be yellow, is,
The northeast corner is gonna be yellow. Okay? Is there any more questions? Okay, while the hat is being passed, Chuck Moore has a contribution. I need to say something else now. Would you come forward?
Sorry.
I'd like to say that Aaron sent out an email asking or challenging every local to bring $100. I told her to go ahead and print the check. Our local has a real good reputation. As a matter of fact, we consistently win the 100% COPE award out of our international union. We just took a nice sizable check to our international or district COPE fund. So I told her to go ahead and cut the check for the $100 that she asked for, and last night at the union meeting, I wanted to get approval, knew it was going to come through, and the guy said to double it. So,
Let's give him a hand.
and unfortunately, I only have the check for the 100, and I have to wait until I get back to get the other one, so. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mike?
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, right now, I'm gonna ask, where's Bill go? Bill Wise? Are there any other committee reports? Right now, huh? Okay. Is there any other committee report?
We do want to make a report, but give us 1 minute.
1 minute? Okay, all right. Well, the PAC, go on, so they need 1 minute to do whatever they need to do. And then I'm gonna get Bill to give a credential update, definitely, before we leave. And if there's any other committee can make a report, then we do so at that time.